free to play. A new report is in, the numbers are here. And you know what? The implications are rather dire. Have you ever heard of Dungeon Fighter Online? Probably not, but that is a game that has made more money than actually almost everything in existence, even more than League. Also, Activision have pulled a 180 over the COD League. Everyone is diving back into The Witcher 3 and a whole bunch more. Of course, it's the first roundup of 2020. We've got a bunch of interesting stories to chat about with you today, so be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell, and with that, let's get rolling. So, a new report has been published by Superdata, and it's revealed that 80% of all money spent on digital games goes to free-to-play. Now, of that 80%, 74% is from mobile, no big surprise, which the report credits to perennial chart toppers like Candy Crush, Honor of Kings, Pokemon Go, etc. Mobile was actually 6 of the top 10 titles in 2019, though Fortnite did retain its top spot for the second year running, despite, making the majority of its money on other platforms. And it was 1.8 billion, by the way. Now, here's something wild. Dungeon Fighter Online, DFO, number 2, $1.6 billion, outdoing LOL, Pokemon Go. I mean, this pretty naff looking free-to-play game has made more money than the entire premium PC gaming market of North America. That is mad. And you know what? There's an implication to it. Now, there is one thing with DFO particularly where it's a very Asian game in terms of its market. That's why, culturally speaking, none of us have heard of it. It's just not a thing outside of where it is. But where it is massive. But broadly speaking, you see those free-to-play numbers just, permeate across. They pretty much are a thing everywhere, although, yes, China, etc. does lean a little bit more towards free-to-play. But here's the thing. The implications of that are actually rather dire. We're going to get onto those in a little bit, but at the end of the day, that is one game that's probably not all that expensive to make, and it made more money than PC gaming in North America, premium PC gaming. And that actually, I believe the way the numbers works, does include microtransaction spend on premium PC games. So that actually does include GTA Online microtransactions in North America. Pretty bad. And really, this rise of free-to-play becomes more and more evident as you look into the numbers. The industry's worth 120 billion, mobile was 64, PC was 29, consoles were 15-ish, VR, video, AR, they made up the rest. That's wild. And I mean, it's no surprise that 2019 saw AAA publishers bring their franchises to mobile with more enthusiasm than ever. COD Mobile brought in 116.8 million in 2019. Mario Kart Tour, it got 40 million in its first month. And here's the thing, there's dev realities here. On mobile, you can get away with absolute murder. Well, figuratively speaking. The thing is, what mobile audiences will be okay with is insane. Imagine you are, say, I don't know, playing World of Warcraft or, some RPG-like game or Destiny, right? And you just get a pop-up saying, hey, would you like this item? Spend some gems now. That is totally normal on mobile. So yeah, you can get away with murder. It's like taking candy from a baby. Just that, well, I mean, sometimes it kind of is a baby, but, it's less of a baby and it's more somebody who's just psychologically just unaware in general of what's being done to them. Now, the other thing, though, is those mobile games are often far lower fidelity. I mean, think of Fate Grand Order. That's waifu JPEGs. People are buying waifu JPEGs. That's wild, and that means smaller core development teams. And one of the upshots of that is in sort of how the business model actually ends up being rolled out, because when your core dev cost is actually a little bit smaller and it's all about user acquisition, what happens? Well, your costs are shifted onto marketing. Now, here's the thing with marketing. You can get a small version of your game. You can, if you want to test the Western market, you can soft launch it in Australia, see how it goes there with a limited marketing spend, tweak all of your knobs. You can de-risk things before you actually commit the majority of your spend, which does come in marketing and user acquisition. And really, all those things just make it so much more viable for the people who have the money, because I think it also is the case that you need to be an incumbent. You need to have insane amounts of resources in terms of, marketing and just general operational capacity to actually break through, to penetrate the mobile market, to actually get out there. But obviously, the people who, could be able to make the most high fidelity, expansive, ambitious games, well, they're the people who have the most money. And if you're the people who have the most money and this is the market reality that you're dealing with, well, I mean, it's no surprise that games like Star Citizen, if we're going to assume it is going to come out, are crowdfunded instead of, being investor driven, because any investor with that amount of money is obviously going to put it into mobile. So yeah, it's spooky stuff, and more generally, spending money in free-to-play titles, that's just became normal, right? It's now a mainstay of gaming, People were making slippery slope arguments years ago, and they were right. Basically. And, there's bad implications here, right? If you look at sort of the big data, if you're always making data-driven decisions, and you can get away with these things even in core premium PC games, and that's, maybe not what the most core audience wants, at the end of the day, the numbers come in, and the numbers kind of show that it works. And I think that's got pretty dire sort of implications on niche markets, niche consumers, core consumers, really. We're actually getting to the stage, I believe now, where the people who really championed gaming existing by, purchasing games, I kind of worry that some of us are going to be left behind if we actually track this stuff forward 10 or 20 years. But you know what? I'll talk about that a little bit more in a more complete video. Of course, subscribe to be notified when it comes out. Okay, next up, Activision. They seemed set on destroying COD esports, if you've been keeping up on that. And that's much like how they hamstrung Overwatch's esports and damaged their other properties. In this case, it was by pushing a home away franchise format similar to the Overwatch League, or at least some of that stuff. One that's more based on sort of not how gaming esports arose, but on the NFL franchise model, selling the team spots for insane amounts of money. And, this has led to them in Overwatch barely promoting contenders. They actively went out of their way to shut down grassroots esports for Overwatch. There was a situation with a Korean company, and it was just terrible. I mean, I really do think Activision are a bit of a disaster for esports. Well, with Call of Duty, it was set to suffer a similar-ish fate, but they may have actually listened and tweaked the format. So Activision have pushed through a much requested format change. The league was originally only going to be including a series of home and away matches, but it's now actually going to be incorporating tournament play alongside the home away format, and that is kind of bringing a little bit more of traditional esports into it. Now, overall, it's a big upgrade for those people who actually care, but the state of Activision esports is a little bit dire. I mean, the Owl, it lost major talent ahead of its next season. It's struggling with viewership. I mean, that's a mix of the Overwatch team's questionable balancing choices and the game's lack of content. And you know what? That viewership decline, that's even with them using every trick in the book, from including rerun stats to using wiki embeds to try to get more views. I mean, don't you love it when the grassroots of esports just gets taken over by big money and has the life sucked out of it? I'm pretty sure that's what's happening, and it's really seemingly what Activision are just specialists at. Anyway, let's move on to some better news. So, Witcher. CD Projekt Red has reached a new licensing agreement with the book series' author, Andrzej Sapkowski. Now, this comes a year after he publicly demanded more than $16 million in royalties following the success of The Witcher 3. And while the terms of the new deal have not been published because of, a mutual NDA there, it does seem like it's something that's boding well for the future of The Witcher franchise. Maybe he'll be a bit more involved. Might be interesting. Now, this announcement actually came the same day as the premiere of the new Witcher Netflix series, a series that itself has actually seemingly proven to be a massive success, at least with audiences. Now, this sent people back to playing Witcher 3, which recently has broke 102,000 peak concurrent players, surpassing its launch peak and actually at one stage outpacing Destiny 2, and that's only in Steam, so a pretty darn impressive achievement. And I think it just does, it's one of those things that's really heartening, because this is a great bit of intellectual property, but it's been one that has been treated with respect by its creator. It's not been, just shamelessly, squeezed all the money that you could, potentially get out of it. It's been a pretty solid premium game. It's been really good quality. It's pretty much been no bullshit. And it's nice to see that them treating their brand and their fans well has actually been, awarded, right? There's a good relationship there, and I think it really is in many ways just a role model of generally how to conduct yourself. Okay, next up, a bit of a funny. So, Platinum Games producer Hideki Kamiya tends to say exactly what he thinks, and over the holidays, He called the Nintendo Switch home menu a piece of crap. His gripe is the shitty gigantic game icons taking up too much space, while other titles are tossed into a trash can called All Games. And he concludes by wondering whether the team that designs the home menu has ever played a Nintendo fanboy Switch. You know what? Strong words, but they're pretty darn hard to argue against. Nintendo seriously need to up their UI design game. I mean, in general, across everything, but, either that or they need to be willing to have an advanced layout for power users. I mean, imagine Steam with a terrible library, and I get it. They say they're kid-friendly, so nice big buttons, but come on, lads, you sell Senran Kagura Reflections. Have an advanced mode for other consumers. Anyway, with that, that is it for today's episode of The Roundup. However, there's a lot of content. So, yesterday, we had our Stadia analysis vid. It has dropped so many players. It's a bit ridiculous, and there's a lot of stuff there that you might find interesting. And also, up today, Vince Zampella's big moves within EA Games, seemingly, actually, moving us towards more premium games, more core games. It might actually be a pretty darn good thing. I mean, a part of the company actually seems to be taking narrative games seriously with Fallen Order 2. So I think that one is really worth watching. It's a super important topic. Be subscribed to get it. It will be out today. So thank you very much for watching today's video. Let me know, what do you think about the free-to-play trends? How do you think core games are going to survive in the face of those economic realities? I really want to hear. And with that, thank you, and I'll see you next time.